Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar, focusing on the proper shutdown procedures you need to complete now to effectively start up your Hobart C-Line dish machines this fall. I'm Chris Miller from the institution's team at Partstown, which, as many of you now know, is coming together with Heritage Parts. This combination allows us to bring together the unique strengths of each organization with more inventory, faster delivery, accelerated technology, and strengthened customer experience. So a special thanks to all of our customers for joining us here today. I'm happy to be joined today by our presenter from Hobart Service, Dan Langston. Today, Dan will provide us with planned maintenance strategies to follow in properly shutting down your machines and returning to operations for the smooth transition of your equipment into the new school year. We'll also learn more about the new Hobart C-Line maintenance kits available and why the parts included are critical to the proper function of your machine. Last but not least, there will be a wide range of resources available to you following today's webinar. So keep an eye out for some checklists, videos, and helpful guides you can reference along with the recording of this webinar. And we'll talk a bit more in depth about these resources too. If you have questions during the webinar, please type into the chat box along the right side of your screen. We've saved some time at the end to get to as many of your questions as we can, so stay tuned for that. As safety is always our #1 priority, before we begin, we want to remind all customers if you are having performance issues, questions regarding the content of this webinar, or concerns regarding your Hobart equipment, we strongly recommend that you contact an authorized service agent. We'll be sharing contact information for Hobart Service at the end of today's presentation. And now, let's turn it over to Dan.
Thank you, Chris. And thanks to everyone for joining today. As was mentioned, my name is Dan Langston. I have been with Hobart Service for 36 years and have had the opportunity to be in many school kitchens. It has often been my experience that the kitchen staff do a fantastic job of keeping their dishwasher clean. Some of the items we will mention today will help them and you to have a great experience with your Hobart dishwasher. First off, let's talk about sanitization. All Hobart dishwashers are certified to NSF standard number 3 and for commercial warewashing equipment. With the application of cumulative heat, chemicals, or contact on the surfaces, there's a reduction of 5 logs or almost 100% of representative disease microorganisms of public health importance. There's 2 things to remember when considering the 5-log kill. Since viruses are not microorganisms, it cannot be said that NSF certified commercial dishwasher will consistently kill the COVID-19 virus. This does not mean that a commercial dishwasher is not capable of neutralizing the virus. It simply means that it's never been tested for that specific pathogen. The difference between sterilization and sanitization means that sanitizing is defined as reducing the number of microorganisms to a safe level. Sterilization means you're removing all microorganisms like they do in hospitals with an autoclave. For maximum sanitization, Hobart recommends that high-wear dishwasher parts be replaced every 6 to 12 months. If not done, it could result in an unnoticed loss of heat and other conditions that lessen the effectiveness of the sanitization process. Now we have a polling question. Have you already shut down your dish machine? So when shutting down for periods of time, it is best to follow the basic steps to protect your machine from long-term damage and provide for easy startup. So let's talk about this. Step number 1 for long-term shutdown. Power the machine off. Turn the disconnect switch or the breaker off at the machine. Keep in mind, many machines have more than one power source. Step 2, shut the water off. It's important not to leave the water on pressured against your vacuum breaker and everything else in the machine. Be sure and shut down the steam or gas supply if your machine has that type of heat. Step 3, remove the curtains and wash them in a 3-compartment sink. Step 4, spray down the interior of the machine. Make sure to spray down around the wash arms and where the curtains were removed. Step 5, remove the scrap basket. Take it to a 3-compartment sink. Take a good look at it. This would be a good time to straighten any bent or any tabs that are bent on the basket. Step 6, remove and clean the strainer pans in the 3-compartment sink. And step 7, now you can drain the tank. Observe the condition of the drain. Does it move freely? Observe the overflow tube. Make sure it has an O-ring on it. Clean the float balls and switch assembly. You want to look at that overflow tube and make sure it doesn't have any splits or nicks in the O-ring. There can be food buildup or metal shavings on the float balls. Some customers use SOS or a metal scrubby before it goes into the machine. And this can accumulate on that little float ball because it has a little magnet in it. And the float ball will now look like it has a beard that needs to be cleaned periodically. Step 8, remove the upper and lower wash arms. Clean any particles from those arms. Step 9, remove the overflow tube if the machine has one and clean it with warm soapy water. The top of the overflow tube will get a buildup of food soil, so you'll need to clean that off. Make sure that O-ring is in place. Step 10, wipe down or spray the interior of the tank to flush food soil to the bottom of the tank. Step 11, now it's time to put the parts back in. Replace the overflow tube, the strainer pans, then the scrap bucket, then the wash arms, and finally, your curtains. It's a good habit in step 12 to spray the outside of the machine with a mineral oil-based stainless steel cleaner or polish to protect the surfaces against dust or buildup. And finally, step 13, leave the doors open to allow the machine to air out and dry. Once it's dry, you can close the doors back to prevent anyone from walking into them. Now, did you improperly shut down your equipment? Don't worry about it. You can start on step 3 if you've already powered it down, and no additional products will be needed. If you're going to clean any of the inside surfaces, make sure you use a commercial detergent. Don't use something like Dawn because it will suds up on you really badly. And you can see we've said here, if you have any problems with your machine, if your machine doesn't pull the rack through, dish machine leaks, or it won't wash or rinse, we recommend you call an authorized service agent. Now we have another polling question. When do you think you'll have your dish machine up and running again? Once you've performed the shutdown, restart should be fairly simple. So for restart, you want to check those O-rings I've been talking about. Check the one on the drain tube, the wash arm hubs, the wash arm caps, and the rinse arms. O-rings can dry out. Turn the utilities back on, fill the machine, and check for leaks. A maintenance inspection should be considered for all C-line dish machines. It's important to have a preventive maintenance plan and checklist of items that you can use on a routine basis. Developing this practice will ensure your machine is running optimally and improves overall uptime and performance. PM schedules are demonstrated to also save on costly repairs and downtime. Now I have another polling question. Do you have a preventive maintenance or PM program? On this slide, we're showing you a typical PM checklist. The first subset tells you to clean the dishwasher. Talks about door seals and interior door release. It's important that the door latches. In the newer machines, it's a labyrinth seal, metal to metal, and food can build up in there, and it can cause the door to leak, or even worse, not allow it to run. The upper and lower wash arms, rinse arms, and spray nozzles should all be clean. The wash and rinse actuator switches also can get food buildup in them. There's one on each end of the machine. You want to check the inside tank. The tank bottom can get paper clips and other things setting on it. You don't want that to dry in there. You want to check the strainer pans, the overflow covers, pump guard, heating elements. Make sure the heating element looks like it doesn't have cake batter on it. It may need to be de-lined. Then you'll want to replace the rinse arm strainers. The little strainers are an 80 micron strainer that prevents big things from getting into the rinse nozzles. Rinse arm O-rings, make sure that you have good rinse pressure. The upper and lower wash manifold O-rings, make sure you have good wash pressure and your dish is going to come out clean. And your wash arm end caps and O-rings also should be inspected. The end caps will crack and split over time. You want to check the function of the switches. There's a dish rack start switch so that when you push the rack in, the machine starts up. There's also a play button on the keypad that you can start the machine with. There's door switches. If you're running the machine, you open the door, the machine should stop. There's an anti-jam switch that stops when the racks are jammed. For example, if a big spoon or ladle falls off the rack, it jams the machine. It prevents the machine from doing serious damage. There's a table limit switch on most machines down at the end of the exit table, operated by a bar. So when the table gets full of racks, it will stop the machine. When they pull the rack away, the machine should start back up. The other obvious checks, you want to check for any leaks. You want to check your display. Make sure if it's supposed to say 165 degrees F, that's what it says. Check your drain line. Make sure it drains freely and that your drain in the floor is not overflowing. And then you want to contact Hobart Service for more information and let us help you design a custom checklist. And now I want to talk about maintenance kits. We have maintenance kits for C-line and flight type dishwashers. They can save you time and money. The new kits for C-line dish machines contain replacement parts for wear and tear parts. The installation can normally take less than an hour and requires moderate mechanical expertise. It will improve your uptime and reduce downtime, which everybody hates. Reduces costly repairs. And most importantly, it makes sure your dishes are sanitized and clean. All the maintenance kits include, if you look at the top left, a vacuum breaker kit, rinse arm O-rings, rinse arm strainers, and final rinse nozzles. The vacuum breaker kit prevents the dirty water in the wash tank from being sucked back into the clean potable water system. Final rinse nozzles are important to make sure that you rinse the dishes off and that you're not wasting any chemical. Bottom left, you have new wash arm end caps and wash arm O-rings. They make sure that you're getting the right amount of water over the dish. It improves worker safety, so you don't have to worry about water spritzing out at the operators, and they're not wasting water. And of course, it minimizes chemical consumption. The top right, standpipe O-rings, as I've talked about several times on the drain tube, and new float balls. The float balls control the fill and the heat and are very important to the operation of the machine. In the bottom right, you're going to get new long and short curtains. All of our curtains are NSF certified and have the part number stamped in the curtains. They prevent cross-contamination, and they also keep your heat in the machine where it belongs. So now, how to select your kit. First thing you need to know is the height of the machine, or the height of the opening. A standard height machine is 22 inches or less. A higher than standard machine will be greater than 22 inches. You can see the picture at the bottom shows you how to measure from the table to the opening beside the curtain. The second thing you want to do is look up your model number on the data plate. And then you're ready to select your kit. When you need service, whether you're looking for a professional service agreement, contract on your dishwasher, a turnkey installation for a new bakery oven, or a water treatment system, like a water softener or a filter system, Hobart can provide the solution you're looking for. We can provide service plans, equipment maintenance and repairs, custom preventive maintenance checklists, and installations. For that information, go to www.hobartservice.com or call 888-975-6465. And now I'm going to give it back to Chris.
Thanks, Dan. So Partstown is proud to be an authorized distributor for Hobart Parts and our one-stop shop for the most in-stock parts ready to ship same day. What I'm going to do for you all is walk you through how to find these maintenance kits online on partstown.com, as well as some other features that you may find useful to be able to access parts quickly, including interactive diagrams for these dishwasher machines, as well as parts lists and installation manuals. So I'm going to share my screen here with you all, and we will walk through this. All right. So starting at partstown.com, there's a few ways you can find your maintenance kits. Once you've identified the kit that's needed, the easiest way is typing the part number directly into the search bar. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to go with that we need maintenance kit number 00-913178. 00018. We'll hit enter or search. Now here you'll be able to see a picture of the contents, the stock status, and quantity available. So one of our, our bread and butter is really the availability of our inventory. As you can see here, we have our stock status in stock, ships today. We ship as late as 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so there's a nice countdown here in terms of how much time you have left to be able to get this product to ship that same day. You'll be able to confirm all of the manufacturer details, including the manufacturer number, our Hobart part, our Partstown part number, including the Hobart suffix or prefix, as well as the units, quantity available. Now, what you may notice here is this particular Partstown part number has a box next to it with a drop-down that says "In My Parts." So with this My Parts feature, you can create a personal list for easy access to the parts most important to you. If I click on this drop-down box here, you'll actually see that there's a My Dishwasher Kits list and an option to create a new one. So as you go through and you're identifying the parts needed after you've conducted your research or have identified the maintenance kit that's needed for your unit, you can create a customized list of all of these for easy access. Not only will you be able to see confirmation of a part you've already added to a list, but at the top of your page, you can go under My Parts to be driven to all of the parts that you've compiled together for easy reference. So for example, there's a couple of kits here that I've added to demonstrate here. The really nice thing about this is once you compile all these parts together, it not only gives you the option to create additional lists where you can accumulate lists based on maybe it's a certain building, maybe it's a certain cafeteria, a certain location. You can put those all together to really have a really nice repository of information and parts available. You can actually update quantities, see the stock status, and add items directly to your cart from this page as well. Now we're going to go to another part as an example if something was not in your parts list. For this, we're going to go to 00-913178-00017. You'll see from this specific view, you'll get all the same information. The only difference is this now says Add to My Parts. With an easy click here, you can click the drop-down box and click on My Dishwasher Kits, and you'll be able to add this kit specifically to your parts list for reference later. Another thing I'd like to show you from this parts list is something that we call My Equipment. We'll go back to our original maintenance kit here. You may have noticed under here where the Partstown part number is, the quantity available, and the fits models, is that there's a checkbox here that says Fits My Equipment. What we've done is tied the maintenance kits to our archives of all the models of different equipment that we store online on our website. What you'll be able to see down here is under the Fits models, you can see all of the different models from the C44, C54, C64, C81, and the CLP S66E in terms of what kits are compatible with what models. You'll also be able to see that this particular kit and this particular model is already in an equipment list. So as you start to accumulate this information, you add parts to your parts list, you start to add models to your equipment list, it will all communicate together. So as you're doing your research for parts, it will show you what's compatible and what fits your equipment, and if you've already placed it in a parts list before. So now I'm going to dive into the My Equipment feature. And what you'll see here is we have a couple of personalized lists, including dishwasher equipment, one we call OEM Cafe, and the Partstown Bistro. So for demonstration today, we'll dive into the dishwasher equipment list. What we'll be able to show you here is we have the CLPS 66E, which, if you remember, is in the list of compatible units for that original maintenance kit. As you start to compile models, you'll be able to access a parts list, any manuals and diagrams for that particular unit. And as you add specific units to this list, we have a repository where you can actually add an equipment name, you can add notes, serial number, for really easy reference in the future. So this is a really popular spot to put a serial or ML number. And what this allows you to do is if you have a work order system or you receive a ticket and you have an asset tag or an asset ID, that's really easy to determine what piece of equipment is down and needs repair. Because once you've added that into the list here, you can search for that specific identification number and search within your models. From this area, you'll be able to click on parts, for example. Let's say we need to do some repairs for the CLPS 66E. Click on parts and you will get a parts list with pictures, stock, availability. You'll be able to search within the keywords, be able to search by the part category. And one thing to keep in mind as well is you'll be able to see any models that have been added to your equipment. And if there isn't one that's in your equipment, you can search in the top bar here for a specific model. So let's say we have a CL44E model. We'll be able to find that unit and actually click the box here that says add to my equipment to be able to add it to our dishwasher equipment list. So now I'm going to go back to the previous model. One thing to keep in mind as you see the parts list here is we've created a logic in our system that whenever you're looking at a specific model, all of the parts are ranked by most to least order. And what this really makes it easy to do is you could assume based off of this list, for example, that this probe assembly, maybe that's one of the most common parts to do in a repair. Or maybe these are some of the most common parts that you'll see compiled into some of these maintenance kits that are usually being ordered a la carte, where the maintenance kits puts everything all into one package for you and allows you to have one easy, simple kit that will allow you to perform that preventative maintenance. Now, since these kits are new, in this specific example, as you scroll through the parts here, this maintenance kit, since they were recently added, is actually going to show up on the second page. So as this starts to ramp up and more start to begin being ordered for these maintenance kits, it will start to climb up to the first page. So that way it'll be an even easier access point to add these parts. Now, once you've identified the parts needed, we'll be able to go to this, for example, let's say from our parts list, we're like, okay, we're ready to go. You'll simply add this to your cart. If you're all good to go, you'll click checkout. You'll be able to confirm all of these details in here, and you guys know the rest. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've left some time to hear from you all. So again, please type any questions you have into the chat box now. It'll be on the right-hand side of the WebEx today. And it looks like we have a couple of questions already that we can dive right into. Dan, it looks like we have a question in terms of how often should I replace this kit?
We recommend the beginning of the school year and then every 6 months from there, depending on usage.
And in terms of identifying the correct kit, who's the best contact to get in touch with to be able to determine the right part number?
It's best to contact Hobart Service. They'll help you out.
Excellent. Looks like we have another question here. The question is, what is included in a custom preventative maintenance checklist?
Well, the checklist will include everything that you need to clean, everything you need to adjust, certain areas you want to look at. For example, if a pump motor, is starting to grow hair out of it, and where it needs to pull air in, then you need to clean that out. It'll direct you in the right areas.
Great. We have another question that's come in. The website and phone number you gave us earlier, is that a good number for technical support?
No, it is not. but you'll have to contact the local office.
Right. Let's give it another minute here to see if there's any other additional questions that'll come in. We have a question as it pertains to deliming and descaling, if there's a product recommendation you can provide.
We do not make a recommendation. We usually recommend you contact your chemical supplier for that information.
Excellent. Looks like our Q&A session has just about wrapped up. If there are any additional questions that any of you all have, please don't hesitate to let us know. If there's any that were in the chat that have been answered, feel free to contact us if there's any additional questions surrounding today's presentation. Here's some contact information as well that Dan had mentioned before: Hobart Service and Partstown. And I want to thank you all again for attending today's webinar, and thanks to our partners at Hobart Service for bringing us this valuable information. Keep an eye out for the resources we discussed today along with the replay. If you have any questions about parts for your Hobart machines, please contact us at the number or email address listed here. The maintenance kits we talked about today are now available at partstown.com and on our mobile app. And right after you close out this session today, you'll also see a short survey to let us know what you think. Your feedback will help to inform us of the topics, format, and timing that best meet your needs. And with that, I'll thank you one last time and wish everyone a great afternoon.